Hola clase, esta noche vamos a hablar del subjuntivo. So far we've really only learned how to conjugate the subjunctive, but we haven't learned how to use it in context. There are many different times that we use the subjunctive. Así, ¿qué es el subjuntivo? It's used to express desires, doubts, the unknown, abstracts, and emotions. The subjunctive isn't actually a tense, it's really a mood. The difference is that moods reflect how the speaker feels about an action, while a tense refers to when an action takes place. So for instance, the subjunctive mood is used to express these different elements, which is the opposite of the indicative mood, which is used to express actions, events, and states that are believed to be true and concrete. You're going to hear this a lot, indicative versus subjunctive. Indicative is anything that's not subjunctive, like yo pienso, yo pensé. So that's the present tense, the future tense, the preterite. It's stating facts that are concrete. Let's talk about when to use it. Cuando se usa. Now, like I said, there are many different instances that we use the subjunctive versus indicative versus infinitive. We are only going to talk about will or wish right now. We're going to separate them and categorize them. So you use will or wish with subjunctive when you're expressing that you want or hope that someone will do something. Will or wish with subjunctive is used when you are asking someone to do something. So I have a little bit of a typo on the screen. So once again, expressing you want or hope that someone will do something when you're speaking to someone about that something. Subjunctive is used for giving people recommendations as well as you hope or want them to follow your advice. So for example, I ask that my students study 3 hours a night. I would put that in the subjunctive because I'm recommending them to do that. I want them to do that, for example. Here are some common verbs that we use with subjunctive with will or wish. I'm going to go through and give you all of the English for them just in case you don't know something. Notice they all have a que attached to them as well. Querer que means to want that. Esperar que, to hope that. Insistir en que, to insist on that. Preferir que, to prefer that. Recomendar que, to recommend that. Pedir que, to ask that. Sugerir que, to suggest that. Aconsejar que, to advise that. Es necesario que, it's necessary that. Es una buena idea que, it's a good idea that. The two phrases here that start with es are called impersonal phrases. And when you have a word like necesario, una buena idea, aconsejable, a word that's giving advice to do something or saying that it's necessary that someone do something, that's still using subjunctive because I still am giving advice that it's necessary or it's a good idea. The S being there just makes it an impersonal phrase. There are a few things that you need to remember when using the subjunctive, in particular with will or wish. There must be at least 2 subjects, unless, of course, it is the impersonal phrase. Like I said, there are only 2 exceptions to that being impersonal phrases, such as es importante que, es necesario que, es una buena idea que. And the third thing that you need to remember is that que is the word that separates those 2 subjects. I'm going to break it down for you first in English and then show you how I use the subjunctive in Spanish. We're going to follow those couple of rules that I just gave you as well. So again, this is subjunctive with will or wish. I hope Sophia goes to Spain this summer. So here I have my will or wish word, I hope, and then I have my two subjects, I and Sofía. Okay, so traducirlo en español, yo espero que separates both of my subjects, Sofía vaya a España este verano. Yo espero, I hope, que separates my two subjects. Now I have subjunctive tense, vaya a España este verano. Now I'm going to give you a few examples showing you the difference between subjunctive and using infinitive. Aquí está un ejemplo usando el infinitivo. Es necesario hacer la tarea cada noche. Es necesario is my impersonal phrase, but notice there's no que. So I'm not directing this to anyone in particular. I'm just stating a fact that it's necessary to do homework every night. I'm not saying it's necessary that you do it, or that your sister does it, or that all of your friends do it. I'm just stating a general fact. Now look at the difference when I use subjunctive. Es necesario que Ana haga la tarea. Now I'm directing this impersonal phrase towards someone specifically. So I have to use que, and then I conjugate in the subjunctive because it's a recommendation to Ana. Es necesario que Ana haga, subjunctive, la tarea. Here's another example con infinitivo. El entrenador recomienda practicar más. The coach recommends practicing more. Again, he isn't recommending it to anyone in particular, so I only have one subject in the sentence. El entrenador. So I conjugate for him, he recommends, el entrenador recomienda. But as we all know, you can't have two conjugated verbs back to back. Recomienda practicar más. Now I have el entrenador recomienda que el equipo practique más. The coach recommends that the team practices more. So I have two subjects, el entrenador y, like we said over here, el equipo. It is separated by que, and then following the que, I'm going to have my subjunctive, practique. The coach recommends that the team practice more. Uno más ejemplo, just one more. Here's an example with an infinitive. Yo quiero cocinar la cena. I want to cook the dinner. I don't want anyone else to cook it. I'm just talking about myself. So again, I only have one subject. I'm going to keep it in the infinitive. Yo quiero que mi mamá y yo cocinemos pollo para la cena. I want my mom and I to cook chicken for dinner. So I have two subjects, yo y mamá y yo are my two subjects. I want for us to cook chicken for dinner. So I have it separated with my will or wish word, quiero. I have a que to separate these two subjects, the yo and the mi mamá y yo. And then since I have all of these elements, that means I have to have subjunctive tense which is cocinemos. Adiós clase, hasta mañana.